We went for a walk and we went past a farm and on towards some woods and past the woods out to an empty sort of a place, and no one lived there, but there was a tower, and we walked up to the tower and it was full of cows. I figured that the cows had run away from the farm and were living in the tower. It was a cow tower. I was trying to work out how the cows got to the top of the tower when I saw some doors open and a cow walked out. It was a lift. The cows were using the lift. And my dad said, "Phew, it's a bit of a pong, isn't there?" And I said, "That cow's pressing the wrong button. It's pressing the button that keeps the doors open. It'll never go." And my dad said, "Good point, Mick."
Toenails. More and more people in Britain today are using toenails. Smart and smooth, they grow on all 5 toes of each foot. We spoke to Jack Davis of Hackney. "Yeah, I like toenails. I've got 10 of them. Big ones for the big toes and little ones for the little toes. They're great." Be like Jack. Be smart. Grow toenails.
Fly racing. We lie on our backs in the tent, looking up at the roof where the flies walk and hop and fly. There are bluebottles and horseflies and houseflies and midges. My brother says it's a race, and he gives them names. The housefly he calls Joe Soap. The horsefly he called Thugger. The midge he calls Tiddlybottom. Then he starts the racing commentary. "And Joe Soap is heading for the line. Oh no, he's coming back. Tiddlybottom is stuck. Tiddlybottom hasn't moved. Thugger is powering into the lead, and little Tiddlybottom seems to be stuck." And I'm giggling, and he's shouting, and I'm giggling, and my dad suddenly puts his head through the tent door. "You've woken us up. It's 5:30 in the morning. We come on holiday to rest and relax, and all we can hear is you two roaring your heads off in the middle of the night." And my brother says, "But you said it was 5:30 in the morning. That's not the middle of the night." "Enough," says my dad, and his head disappears from the tent door. "We'll talk about this later." Oh no, not the later thing. And I lay there, pointing up at Tiddlybottom. He hadn't moved. He was still there. And we lay there laughing so hard, but oh so quietly, that there were tears streaming out of our eyes, and we buried our faces in our sleeping bags. Later, we got the later thing. The raft. Mart and me made a raft for the river. Thick branches crisscrossed and tied with rope. Empty cans on top to help it float. Mart and me would row about on the water. We'd cross to the other side. We'd row downstream, upstream, under the trees, between the fields. We'd be river rovers. The river would be ours. We made the raft at the water's edge. We pushed it out into the shallows. Mart got on. "Are you getting on?" he said. Not yet," I said. And then, whew, it flipped. It flipped right over. Mart was under the raft. The raft was on top of him. He was underwater. I couldn't lift it off him. The criss-cross branches were like a cage, holding him down in the river water. His face came up into a space between the branches. He called out, "Ah!" He went under again into the river. I tried to lift the raft, but he was clinging onto it underneath. I couldn't lift the raft. His face came up into the space again. I could see his hands gripping the branches. He was trying to get air, but he couldn't get his mouth up high enough into the space, so his mouth was filling up with river water. Then he went under again, and the space where his face had been was river brown. Mart's brother Tony stepped into the shallows, grabbed the raft and hoisted it up, with Mart still clinging to it. Mart choked, coughed and spat. He sat on the riverbank, shuddering. His clothes stuck to him like another skin. Mart's mum and dad and my mum and dad had a conference. They decided that there would be no rafting.
Nasty. The loaf and the knife. Warning. This is a horror story. I was on the last bus going down Willesden Lane one Wednesday night. I was going to stay with a friend that way. I was upstairs looking down on the street below when I heard this awful coughing. So I looked round, and it was the Bakerloo flea woman, the woman who knew, all about those wasps and all that. I don't believe it, I said. Oh, no, she said, can't keep out of each other's way, can we? It's becoming a habit, isn't it? Don't like your cough, I said. Do you think I do? She said. I suppose not, I said. It's not as if it's the only thing I'm bothered by, she said. Oh, don't tell me, I said. You've got a plague or something? Slugs, I know. Giant slugs in your bath. Don't be funny, she says. I'm sorry. She didn't say anything, so I asked her myself. Well, what's bothering you, I said. Oh, it's only a little thing. Yeah, I said, not believing her. Well, I'm not superstitious, she said. I don't believe in any of these things like horoscopes or fortune-telling, none of it. Neither do I said, but I used to have mice in my house. Oh, don't we all, I said. Well, I don't any more, she said. Oh, well, lucky you, I said. Oh, not a bit of it. I'd give anything in the world to have one or two of those little devils back, if I could. You want mice? You actually want mice, I said. Look, I can do you a favour any time. I've never really said thank you for telling me those stories. They weren't stories, she said. No. Of course not, I said. But, if you want a couple of mice, don't worry, I can get some for you. Don't, she says. Don't tell me. I can't stand it. Funny, I thought. There's this woman who scared the wits out of me, telling me about giant wasps and giant fleas, and here she is getting jumpy about a few little mice. Something very strange must have happened to her. I didn't say that to her, though. Instead, I said, so you don't want any new mice, then? Wouldn't make any difference to me now. It's too late. Too late for what? The picture in my eye. You can't wipe that out. Wipe what out? I said. The woman looked as if she was kind of in a dream, but she went on talking. Yeah, and it's not as if that old lady didn't warn me either. She said she'd do it so long as I promised I wouldn't watch her while she was doing it. But I couldn't stop myself. I had to. You know how it is. Someone says to you, you can have what you like so long as you keep your eyes shut. You shut your eyes, you wait, and before you know you've done it, you're peeping. Oh, dear. And it happened to me. And I wish to God it never had. And she warned me, mind. I'll do it for you, girl, she said, but whatever you do, don't watch me, or you'll be cursed by the picture of it in your mind till your dying day. And she was right. Who? I said. Who are you talking about? What happened? Oh, it's nothing really, she said. Oh, come on, I said. You can't just leave it like that. I warn you, she said. You're a fool to ask. Why? I said. Because it'll live in your eye like it's lived in mine. I'll risk it, I said. Right. I used to suffer from mice, she told me. I'm not scared of them like some folks are. I don't mind looking at them. I don't mind seeing them. It's the ones I don't see that worry me. I hate the thought of them running along under the boards, looking out at you through the cracks in the walls. Like making their nests under cupboards. But worst of all, I hate getting up in the morning and finding their little doings on top of the fridge. So, I lay traps, ordinary traps, the ones that snap shut so hard that, they could break your finger while you're seeing them. I used to put little bits of broken Kit Kat on them. Funny that, I always think. Funny that mice love something called Kit Kat, yeah? You get it, yeah. Anyway, the trouble with traps, though, is that you're only catching them one at a time, aren't you? Well, in the time it takes to catch one, they've had 8 babies, haven't they? And anyway, I can never be sure that leaving bits of Kit Kat about doesn't attract them. All the others come for a bit, all right, and they don't get caught, do they? No, I said. So I got the rat catcher in. He put little cake trays all round full of what looked like sawdust and wood shavings. He was a very nice young man, I thought. Much too nice to be bothering himself all day long with how to kill mice and rats and bed bugs and things. I gave him a cup of tea, and as he drank his tea, I couldn't help looking at his hands. I thought of all the horrible places there must have been and all the horrible creatures he must have handled. Well, like what? I said. Lice. She said, dead lice. Anyway, he left the little trays. The mice will eat this poison, he said, and they'll just keel over and die until their whole lot cop it. Where? I say to him. Well, he says, wherever they're going about their business. You mean I'm going to have dead mice all over the place, dying under my floorboards or in the middle of the kitchen floor? Oh, no, he says, this stuff burns them up. You won't get no smell neither. Like I said, they gobble it up, keel over, then the stuff, the poison like, burns them up from the inside. Well, I don't know if he has better luck elsewhere or what, but my mice weren't fooled. They must have taken one look at them little trays and said to each other, "Trouble! Don't touch it, none of you. It may look juicy, but really it's poison." He was a nice enough fella, that rat catcher. Is that maybe I had especially clever mice. You see, what I've learned that it's no use treating mice like you would bugs and flies. Mice have got ways of telling each other what's going on. They stick together, and this is what makes them hard to beat. So how did you get rid of them? I said to the Bakerloo flea woman. Look, come on, tell me. If you're going to tell me, tell me. If not, forget it. Don't push it, son, she says. I'll tell you if you really want me to, but I'm warning you, what I tell you might live in your head for the rest of your days like it has in mine. Right, I'm ready for anything you've got for me, I said. Well, everybody round our way knows Mrs. Kent, and if they don't know her, they know of her. She's lived there all her life and all her people before her. Someone said to me, if you got mice, go see Mrs. Kent. She'll fix them for you. So, because all else had failed, that's what I done. Now, everyone knows it's never much use knocking up Mrs. Kent because she's hardly ever in, and when she's in, she's asleep. You have to wait to catch her on the street. So one day, not long after my Superman and his little trays had come, and I was finding their trails of doings on my draining board, I saw our Mrs. Kent coming down the road. I started in on her, direct. "Hello, dear. You got away with mice, have you, Mrs. Kent?" "So what if I have?" she says. "Well, if you have," I say, "would you be feeling like doing someone a favour?" "I might, but then I might not." "What's your trouble?" "I got mice," I say. "What's so wrong with that?" she said. "Well, I don't want them," I said. "I don't like their dirt. They're no dirtier than the houses they're living in," she said. "Well, my house is clean," I said. "Well, so are your mice," she says. "Well, I don't want them eating my food," I say. "Well, what, can't you afford it?" she says. Now, I'm getting a bit hot under the collar about this, but I stood my ground. "I like to choose who I sit down and eat with, put it like that." "Well, you had the council in, have you?" "Yes," I said. "Did it take?" she said. "Did what take?" I said. "Did the poison take?" "No," I said. "They didn't take it." "Then you got the bad uns," she said. "You got the bad uns. Yeah, they're mad, that lot." Well, between you and me, I thought there was only one of us standing there who was mad, and it weren't me. But I wasn't saying anything. She did, though. "Right, I'll do it for you," she said, muttering away to herself like she's really got it in for these mice. "Yeah, I know this lot. Yeah, never mind your experts. Yeah, no, I'll get rid of these here mice of yours. But I'm warning you, don't watch me doing it. That's all I ask of you. No money, nothing. Just don't watch me doing it. Or what you see will live with you for the rest of your life. You promise?" "I promise," I said. "I'll come to you," she says, "as soon as I can." A couple of days later, 11:30 at night, I'm just unplugging my telly, going off to bed when it comes at the door. It's her. "I've come to get them," she says, and she's over my step and in without a by your leave or nothing. "Got a knife?" she says. "Get into the kitchen, right, before I do." "Yes," I say, showing her my drawer. "Steel, the lot of them," she says. "Stainless steel, that's no good. Ain't you got no iron knives?" "Last time I saw an iron knife was my old Nan's, and she must have had that since before the First World War," I said. And she stopped and pointed her finger directly at me. "This is where you go, girl. Leave me to my business, but mark my words, don't watch me at my business." Now remember, I was on this bus late at night, and here was the Bakerloo Flea woman telling the story of this other woman, and when she said Mrs. Kent pointed her finger at me, the Bakerloo Flea woman pointed her finger at me. It was as if the woman I didn't know was pointing her finger at me through the arm and finger of the woman I did know. "I shut the door, leaving her my kitchen," she told me. But something drew me back to that door. I turned, got down on my knees, and there I was like some peeping Tom, peering through the keyhole. First thing Mrs. Kent does is sit down at my table, take her bag onto her lap, and out of the bag she takes half a loaf of bread. Next, she takes a little penknife. Now this little penknife had 2 rusty blades, one either end. Yeah? The one she sticks in the open end of the loaf where it's sawn off, and the other she just opens it out, blade up. Next thing, she takes up the loaf with the knife stuck in it, and she starts off round the room as if she's looking for one of these mice. In the end, she comes to a hole between the boards and the skirting, and straightway she's laying down the loaf a little way back from the hole with the blade of the knife sticking out. Next thing, she takes my chair and sets it down a little way back from the loaf and knife. And then she switched out the light and she went and sat on the chair. Only the lights from the street shone in, and there she sat, staring at the loaf and knife, and beyond it the wall. And there was me, peering through the keyhole, not daring to breathe. She sat there, staring at that hole for what seemed like a lifetime, until all of a sudden there was a little sound. Scrape, scrape, out of the hole came a mouse. It came, slow, careful, sniffing up the blade of the knife. Mrs. Kent sat there with the street light shining in, her eyes fixed. Not a hair on her head moving, and there was me at the keyhole, staring. The mouse stopped at the blade, sniffed again, and then back it ran to the hole, and still she sat, and still she stared. Until, all of a sudden, there was another little sound. Out of the hole came a mouse. Maybe it was the same one. Maybe it was the next door neighbour. I shall never know. I couldn't see clear enough anyhow. Anyways, this time it come in, careful, sniffing its way up to the blade. And when it got to the blade, it ran its whiskers along the length of the blade. It stopped for a moment, and then in a flash, it's back down the hole. Still she sat, still she stared. And there I was, still outside the door, scarcely daring to breathe. My eye stuck to that keyhole. Then, all of a sudden, for a third time, comes a mouse. Maybe the same mouse, maybe a third, maybe the one she was really after, but this time it was different. This time it came as if its back legs were holding it back. They were fighting to stay put, but its front legs were pulling it on. There was a real struggle going on inside that mouse, and the whole time it was making this mouse noise, the neep, 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 you hear under your floorboards at night. So this mouse, coming faster than it was going, digging its back legs in with its front legs, pulling, got to the blade. And this, you'll never believe, it put its head over the blade, and in one stroke, it ran its neck along the length of the blade and slit its little throat until it moved no more. The blood ran from out of its neck, and its body lay still on the floor. At that, old Mrs. Kent, she got up, she took a cloth and paper bag out of her bag, she picked up the mouse by its tail, put it in the paper bag, she put the paper bag back into her bag, she mopped the blood off the floor, wiped her knife clean, put the cloth in her bag, pulled the knife out of the loaf, snapped the blade shut, put the knife in the bag and put the loaf in the bag. And the whole time it went on, I was still watching. I just couldn't tear myself away from that keyhole. She got up, turned, and came towards the door. And still, I couldn't tear myself away. She opens the door, and there I am, still on my knees. Don't say I never told you, she said. I warned you. What you've just seen will live in your head till your dying day. It will torment you for the rest of your life, or till you find a way of ridding yourself of it. At that, the woman, the Bakerloo flea woman, turned on me, sitting there upstairs on the last bus home, with a funny look in her eye. And I have. I just have, she said. I feel easy in myself for the first time since I seen the whole business with the loaf and knife, because I've just told you all that happened. She pointed again right at me and laughed. Her face relaxed. She looked out of the window of the bus. Oh, yeah. Good Lord, she says, look, this is my stop. She slipped away off the bus, taking a quick last look at me. Now it will live with you for the rest of your life and torment you like it did me till you find a way to get rid of it. And that was that. She left me there. I was 4 or 5 stops past my stop on the last bus, and I had to walk back over a mile through the dark streets, thinking about what she said. It'll live with you like it did me till you find a way to get rid of it. And I found myself thinking, yeah, but how? How can I get rid of it? I'm with SHLOMO the beatboxer again, and I want to find out a bit about, well, how he started doing it. So SHLOMO, how old are you now, can I ask?
I am 36 years old, I think, yeah.
Right, so how long have you been beatboxing?
Well, do you know what happened? When I was 8 years old, my parents bought me a drum kit for my birthday. Well, do you know what really happened? Shall I tell you the whole story?
Please do.
So, it was the night before my 8th birthday. I was so excited, right? And I couldn't sleep, because you can't sleep the night before your birthday. And do you know what I heard? I heard my dad coming up the stairs. Do, 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 do. I was like, that's weird. I wonder why my dad's coming all the way up the stairs. And then I heard him go, do, 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 back down the stairs. I was like, oh, okay, he's probably gone now. I'll just go to sleep, right? I'm just lying there thinking, I've got to go to sleep. I've got to go to sleep. And then do you know what I heard? Joop, 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 joop. Why is my dad coming upstairs again? Joop, 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 joop. He's gone back down. Okay, you know what? I really do need to get to sleep. It's my birthday tomorrow. Just as I'm drifting off, do you know what I heard the third time? Joop, 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 joop. And this time I'm like, I'm going to have to go out and see what's going on. So I'll go outside to see why my dad keeps going up and down the stairs. And he's holding a drum. And he's got a very guilty look on his face. And I suddenly realised I'm getting a drum kit for my birthday. And do you know what I did? I burst into tears.
Why?
Because I was so happy.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, in the morning, I couldn't wait. I had to get up super early at like 6 a.m. or something, or however early kids get up. And I ran all the way downstairs, and there was this shiny drum kit with a bow on it. And what do you think I started doing? I started bashing it as loud as I could. And after about 2 minutes of this, the phone rings, and it's the neighbour saying, excuse me, do you know who's got a drum kit? And they're playing it at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And from that point forwards, my parents had to be strict about when I could play it.
And when could you play it?
I think I was allowed to play it after school, but not after 6 p.m. So I'd have about an hour and a half maybe to do my practice. But that's not enough, Michael. The rhythm's coming out of me day and night. So that's when I started using my voice instead.
So this was a full drum kit?
Oh
so
man, it was
3,
glorious.
4 pieces with
like
the cymbals?
5 drums, cymbals, glossy red thing.
That sort of thing.
And do you know what? What you just did there was basically what I had to do, because I wanted to practice my rhythms and I couldn't use my drums because it would annoy the neighbours, so I'd be all like... Yeah, so I had these little noises I'd make.
And were you doing this in your bedroom? Or where?
Yeah,
just walking about in the car?
In the bedroom, walking about in the car, in the shower. Lots of people beatbox in the shower. So I do the show for kids, and I always ask everyone if they've ever beatboxed before, and for some reason, not everyone's hands go up. I'm like, you do in the shower, don't you? And they're like...
And is that because it's a very clear sound, because you get that sharpness and a little bit of echo?
It's like the perfect sound chamber, like reverberation and also privacy. You've got your own space in the shower.
Yes,
You can express yourself in the shower,
Yeah,
can't you?
and you've got like a kind of bed of sound of the shower behind.
Yeah, get some white noise.
Going on
Exactly,
as well.
exactly.
That's good. Yeah, lovely. So you built that up, and then you just walked about doing it, and then were you doing it in the playground and with your friends and stuff?
Not really. I only really did it for myself as a way to practice like my drums until I was a bit older, when I was a teenager, and other people had heard me do it, and they were like, "What are you doing? That sounds really good." And I was like, "What? Oh, okay." I didn't really think it was for anyone else.
Yeah, and you can't do GCSE in it, can you?
No, you can do it now.
What, GCSE and beatboxing?
Well, you can do it as part of your music GCSE.
Ah, right. Yeah.
But you couldn't when I was a teenager.
Right.
But yeah, I used to do these like because I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s there was this type of music coming out called garage, which was the big thing at the time, and it was like this. I used to do that.
What's that you're doing in your throat there? What's that you're doing there?
So you know I taught you the kick earlier,
Yeah.
the P. So this one's a different type of kick that you just go. Yeah, like.
No, I can't do it.
How do I teach you that? I never had to teach this before. You imagine like. Imagine there's a drum stuck inside your throat and you're not letting it out.
It's a sort of snake look. It looks like you've just swallowed like a hedgehog or something. Am I doing it? No,
Yeah, you're
I'm
doing
not.
it. Now I go.
Sounds like I got indigestion. I'm not doing it very well, am I?
You're doing great.
No. What did you do after the... That's so good. I love it.
So you turn into like a human. That's why they call it human beatbox, because you're kind of doing the sound of like a drum machine or a beatbox, but you're a.
Well, how did you teach yourself to do that? You just...
I actually don't know. Like now, you
Yeah.
can learn. There's like, I've got lessons on YouTube. There's loads of other lessons on YouTube. You can go.
Remember
to,
this, folks. You can find him elsewhere on
You can
YouTube.
learn at school. You can go to. We do like the Beatbox Academy in South London, which grows people from young kids all the way up into professional performers.
Wow.
It's a big culture now. You can enter
And
the
can you
UK
use-
Beatbox Championships, and you can enter the World Beatbox Championships.
Have you done that?
I was the guy who set it up, so I never got to enter. But
Oh,
that
that's
also
terrible.
means I never got to lose. I probably would have lost. So I'm happy to be undefeated.
And are you allowed to use your hands? Are you allowed to do kind of any sounds like that? Do you do any of that?
You're allowed to do whatever you want. There's no rule,
Yeah.
but like, there's loads of noises you can make, isn't there? Yeah, a little freestyle for you.
And do you ever use your
Like-
body as well?
Body percussion is a close relative, I guess. I've not really learned that much about it. Have you
Just
done
have a go. No, I haven't. Just
I like the way you're challenging me to learn. This is
no.
fun.
It's just
It's
given that
cool.
we've got all these resources. I mean,
think
if you
you're
think
right.
about it, you put your hand under there, just do that. I mean, you've even got that, haven't you?
What a pro.
I mean, you could get that going, couldn't you, as well? I mean, that would be.
Should we do a little beatbox and armpit?
Okay,
duet?
so I'll see if I can keep the rhythm going here. So it's a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, and.
Yes.
Not
there we
bad.
go. Send
Actually, you
that to
don't
the
want to
Queen,
do that,
please.
mate. That's a bit wet, yeah. Yeah, very
Yeah, that's
good.
That's a new art
So,
form we
yeah,
just
so
created.
we've got fart box.
Now, it'd be great if you subscribed. That is, you become a subscriber. Look out for the subscribe button. What happens, you see, is that I make new vids every few months, and then I post them up one a week. So if you subscribe, you get to see the new ones just as they come hot off the press. Eeeew.